I just don't know, Bubble. Kane lamented as he sat with his soapy buddy in the digital Circus restaurant. The ringmaster was having issues that could only be fixed with a sound mind and a tactile approach.
What's the matter, boss?
It's Pomni, Bubble. It's Pomni. She is dragging down the entire show with her negativity. I just can't understand why she would be so difficult to work with.
Gee, sir, I sure don't know what possibly could be the reason for her to be distressed.
Was that sarcasm?
No, siree.
Kane looked up at the ceiling for a moment. If only I knew how to get her that go-getter confidence, like that of Jax.
Maybe she needs just a bit of self-love.
Kane's teeth shattered. Wait, say that again, Bubble.
That she needs a bit of self-love?
No, before that.
Gee, I sure don't know what possibly could be the reason for her distress.
Yes, Kane nodded. That's a great idea, Bubble. My pal, my friend.
I have no idea what we're talking about.
Kane jumped up from his seat and floated in the air with his hands on his hips. Come with me, Bubble. We have a show to save and an adventure to plan.
But the food!
We haven't even ordered yet, Bubble. Please don't ruin this moment for me. Pomni screeched awake. Every time she went to bed in the digital world, she hoped to wake up outside, back in the real world, but whenever that wasn't the case, she couldn't help but scream in frustration. Today certainly would be another exhausting and painful adventure. Kane had been super active with them ever since she arrived. It made Zubul despise the jester and avoid her like the plague, while the others just kept protecting her. Except for Jax, of course. He was just enjoying the change of pace around here. After the show's intro, Pomni and the others gathered around the stage as per usual, as Kane plopped into existence. Welcome! Today surely will be an impressive one. Damn it, grumbled Zubul. Because today we will have a special guest, a guest of utmost importance, as they will be the target of today's adventure. Pomni sighed in relief. Finally an adventure where she wasn't put as the main character. Kane now spread his arms out excitedly. Bubble, drum roll please! I said drum roll, please!
Sorry, boss, I don't have hands.
I hate you, Bubble. I hate you so much. Kane snapped his fingers. Regardless of that, I present you to the target of today's adventure! He stepped aside, and the curtains of the stage opened wide. And it was in this moment Pomni felt as if a hole opened up beneath her feet, while everyone just stared flabbergasted onto the stage. There, in the middle of the spotlight, stood Pomni, as in another Pomni entirely. You were quite anxious, especially when your eyes met those of your counterpart. This right here is a wonderful creation of yours, truly. Biting your lower lip, you waved at the characters.
Hello,
you said timidly. Today's adventure is called The Imposter Maze. I'll give you 10 minutes to get introduced to each other, and then we will have a jolly good time. You are now pushed by Kane towards the others. Twiddling your thumbs, you approach them. So, am I guessing right here you're like going to be the imposter among us? Commented Jax with a devilish smirk. In response, he was punted in the back of his head by Ragatha.
How? You haven't even done anything yet.
Disapprovingly, the doll shook her head before putting her attention towards you.
So, are you like an NPC, a person?
She asked carefully, and you nodded.
Yeah. Kane made me and made absolutely sure that I in fact don't have a soul. Though why he felt the need to point that out specifically, I don't know.
You chuckled darkly.
Don't worry. He told me I'll be existing for this adventure only. You don't have to get used to me.
Fascinating, said Kinger as he leaned down to look at you in the eyes.
You look just like Pomni. You even got her timidness down to the bone. Kane surely never made a copy of me, right?
I don't know, you could have been replaced without knowing about it, Jax said with an evil grin.
Kinger grabbed his head. Wait, really? I could be an NPC all this time?
The chess piece screamed in panic. And as the others tried to calm Kinger down to prevent him from going abstract, you decided to approach the one person you were quite literally made to relate to. Pomni. She was sitting there, blankly staring at the stage. You proceeded to sit down next to her.
I just wanted you to know I'm sorry about this.
You stuttered.
You probably feel even more weirded out than me, I assume.
You looked her up and down.
Jeez, I really do look like you. Why is this happening? I just don't get it.
Pomni looked at you, her horrified expression making you feel absolutely terrible for even existing.
I think Kane said something about you needing some reassurance and self-love?
Pomni's right eye twitched.
Sure.
You thought for a moment.
It's only for one adventure,
you said.
One adventure?
You nodded.
Yeah, then I'll be despawned and you never have to even think of me again. I'm just an NPC.
Pomni tilted her head. She didn't understand, really, but there were a few thoughts spooking in her head.
And you're okay with that? Just being created and then ceasing to exist? What even is your name?
You opened your mouth confidently, only to stop after only inhaling.
I don't have a name, actually.
You looked at your feet.
I don't have a name.
You suddenly felt the weight of how disposable of a character you really were on your shoulders. Unintentionally, your lips quivered.
Hey, are you okay?
Pomni placed a hand on yours.
I don't even have a name.
Pomni squeezed your hand a little in response. That feeling was quite relatable to her.
So, as I was saying...
Your heads jolted up as you looked towards Kane.
The Imposter Maze adventure will take place in the exit maze. Pomni and the Imposter will be given 20 minutes to try and return to the play area before the others will be sent to search for them. Your goal?
Kane spawned in a door to the exit maze, pointing at it with his walking cane.
To return with the real Pomni.
And what if we don't? Asked Jax.
Then as punishment you will be spending 10 minutes in the void.
Immediately everyone was on board with figuring out the real Pomni the moment they saw either of you. And with a snap of his fingers, reality shifted around you. You looked to your left and right. Computer desks were lining the walls, and a red door with the word exit was right in front of you. At least for now, there were no sounds. Slowly you walked forward with a slight hunched over back. Sneaking. You felt as if making any sound whatsoever would lead to dramatic consequences. With a shaking hand, you opened the door, only to be led into a copy of the room you had just been in. Seemed like this was the crux of this maze. It was weird. You were a creation of this world, yet it wasn't familiar to you at all. Probably a side effect of you being a copy of Pomni. Aimlessly you wandered through the seemingly endless liminal halls of the exit maze. There was nothing but the stink of moist carpets, the madness of uncaring grey walls, and the noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz. All this combined with hundreds, thousands of more or less empty rooms randomly segmented together. It made the trap that was the exit maze a terrifying beast to behold. After the first few dozen rooms, you honestly started feeling like you were the only one here. Did the others find Pomni already? Maybe if you were lucky, Kane would not delete you, and you could create an existence here in the exit maze. Though the fact of staying here for all eternity seemed a little bleak. It definitely was better than ceasing to exist altogether, though. However, your solitude would soon end, as while you tried to open a locked exit door, another one behind you opened up.
Oh. Hey.
That was Pomni's voice. She stood there, unsure of what to do or say.
You're me.
Turning around, you awkwardly smiled back.
Huh, what a coincidence,
you said. For a moment, you just stared at each other.
You know, I was here before. You'd think you get used to it.
Pomni's attempts at small talk were awkward. You, however, sighed, as you realized your hope of simply being forgotten evaporated, since she was still here. Sighing, you sat down on the carpeted floor. Seeing as you were in no danger, Pomni approached you. Slowly, carefully, but she approached you.
So are you like an evil clone or a skinwalker?
You gave her an almost offended look. You felt as if you did nothing to antagonize her.
No,
you answered.
Kane just created me, in accordance to his understanding of you. That's why I probably will act a little different to you, but like, very much like you.
Pomni went into thought for a moment, before getting on her feet.
Stay there,
she said before walking over to one of the desks. She knew that all these were copy-pastes, and the third drawer on the left always had a black marker in it. She took it out, almost smiling as she did. With it, she walked over to you, once again sitting down next to you. She opened it. What are you doing? She leaned forward, and you could feel the marker's inky felt touch your skin. She scribbled a little club playing card symbol on your cheek. Doing? You finished asking as she pulled away. I guess I'm making you your own character, she said with a shrug, while pointing at one of the computer screens. And slowly you stood up and looked at your reflection. With one hand you touched the hastily scribbled symbol, and your eyes filled with tears. Crying, you lunged at Pomni, thanking her. Thank you. Well, yeah, no people can distinguish between us and all. You sniffled. And all you need is a name now. Maybe we can convince Kane to not delete you then. Crying, you now buried your face in her chest. I know this doesn't mean much, but this is the nicest thing everyone has done to me. Suddenly you felt your counterpart's arm wrap around you, comfortingly. It's okay. We all go through this, I think, in a way. Pomni was warm and soft. You honestly couldn't help but blush at her touch. After a few moments of silence, she asked, Is it weird I kinda like this? You looked up at her. No, at least, I don't think so. I mean, I like it too. Your eyes met, and your faces got closer. Are you okay with this? Pomni's lips quivered. I think so. You pursed your lips. And so did she. But just then, the door to your room was kicked open. I knew we could find them together like that. Jack stopped. Are we interrupting anything? No, you and Pomni said, as both of you jumped up on your feet, awkwardly looking away. Yeah, well, which one of you is the imposter among us? Again, the bunny was punted in the back of his head by Ragatha. Idiot, she hissed. What? What did I do? The doll approached the two of you with a smile. I'm guessing you are the imposter, right? She said as she put her hand on your head. Yeah, thought so. She then looked at Pomni. Well, let's get going. I'm not leaving without her, said Pomni as she grabbed your arm. It made a warm shiver run down your spine. Ragatha blinked confused. Why? I mean, she just looks like you. I know, but she's her own person. Rolling her eye, Ragatha said, She isn't a person. She is an NPC. Pomni's grip tightened in response. Okay, you two discussed that with Kane. I hope Kinger and Graggle found the exit by now. If they can get their stuffing together for 5 minutes, they should keep the door open. With Pomni still holding your arm tightly, you made your way to the exit of the exit maze. Kane was floating on a lounger with a glass of lemonade in his hands. As you left for the final door, terrified, you looked up at him. It's okay, said Pomni, so quiet only you could hear her. And then Kane jumped up from his seat. That is quite astounding. You didn't know who the imposter was, so you just took both Pomnis. That's bold, that's magnificent, that's beautiful, that is a plot twist I like. Kane teleported next to you. His walking cane was raised. However, as it was about to slam on your head, poofing you out of reality forever, Pomni spoke up. "Please stop!" she shouted. You could feel the pressure of the cane against your head. 1 second later, it would have been too late. However, the sudden bravery Pomni felt was quickly going away as the seconds passed and everyone was looking at her. I was just thinking maybe she could not be poofed away.
No, that's silly.
Your head was hit with the cane instantly, and then you were gone. "Why?" shouted Pomni as she fell to her knees, feeling with her hands where you had just stood. Meanwhile, you are floating in an endless, white nothingness. Strange shapes zooming past you as you stared. You looked at your hands. They are glitching a little. Was this the void, or just a void? It could have been seconds, minutes, hours, days. You couldn't tell. You just stared. It was absolute silence, maddeningly so. When suddenly, out of the furthest reach of the void, something red quickly approached you. It was Kane. He stopped right in front of you.
Well, well, well. It seems my plan both failed and succeeded. It failed successfully.
You opened your mouth, but no sound came from it.
I decided to send you back. That's how nice I am.
Kane nudged you with his elbow, encouragingly.
You managed to fulfill your job of cheering up Pomni quite well. But at the same time, she became dependent on your continued existence. So good job, you get to live.
In a celebratory manner, he spread out his arms and legs.
Just one thing.
He hit you in the stomach with his cane, making you cough, though at the same time, it instantly made you change the colors of your clothes and even hair. Instead of the normal red and blue outfit, you now were dressed in a black and yellow one. Even your hair had turned white, like a recolor alternate skin for a fighting game character. Thankfully, the little club symbol was still on your cheek.
This is better now. We also need to officially give you a name, as Pomni with 2 eyes. Well, that probably would be rejected by pretty much everyone. Probably you as well.
The circus was dark by now. Well, everyone was probably asleep after such an adventure. You stopped in front of Pomni's door. You gulped before knocking. Not hearing an answer, you braced yourself and opened it regardless. Your eyes almost immediately fell on Pomni as she was sitting on her bed, opposite to the door. She had been unable to close her eyes ever since you had vanished, and the jester gasped as she saw you. Getting off her bed, she took a few steps forward. Is it? It's you, isn't it? You nodded energetically. Yes, it's me. The same one as before. You looked down at yourself. I guess now you can call me a former doppelganger? Pomni smiled, quickly running over to you. She embraced you tightly. She was laughing. Actually laughing. Not through insanity, but through happiness. I can't believe it, she shouted. Tell me what happened. You shrugged. I was in the void, in a cut and paste kind of way. While staring into the nothingness, Kane appeared and he gave me a name. Out of your right pocket, you took out a small name tag in the form of a 4-leaf clover. I'm Lucky. Literally and figuratively. Pomni took it from you, staring at the name, repeating it. Lucky. Lucky. She gave you a crooked smile as she held it against her chest. Makes sense. I'm so glad. Pomni cried. The two of you hugging tightly. She still felt warm as ever. And after a while, you couldn't help but ask. Pomni? About earlier. She took a step away immediately, you missing her presence. Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking straight. Well, literally. I just wanted to say I liked it, and I was wondering if maybe we could continue from where we left off. This is so screwed up, said Pomni. But, Lucky, I would really like that. She closed her eyes, allowing you to make the move. You gulped audibly before leaning forward. Your pursed lips touched, gentle and warm. She groaned, which emboldened you. Placing your hands on her shoulders, you pushed yourself against her. The more of her body you felt, the faster your heart was beating. And just for a second, she pulled away. Did I do something wrong? Pomni shook her head. No, I was just thinking. Should we be doing this on the bed? It's more comfortable, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Pomni took your hand as she guided you towards it, though she hesitated at its edge. Do you want me to lie down first? She asked. Because I think we both want to lie down first. You nodded. Yeah, I guess so. You bit your lower lip, breathing in through the gaps of your teeth. I mean, it's technically your birthday, so we should do what you are more comfortable with. Shaking a little, you climbed into the bed first, while Pomni crawled on top of you on all fours. You're so close to her now. I never did this before. Sorry, she said. You stared back, biting your lower lip. I mean, obviously, me neither. Strange, she said. That kinda makes this easier. less expectations. After taking a deep breath, she kissed you again. This time both of you closing your eyes to feel the moment. You gasped and groaned. The noise of smacking, touching lips and tender touches filled the room. One of your hands reached up to her chest, while Pomni's new body was quite flat-chested. You still managed to grab a handful of her. She exhaled sharply, your lips separating for just a moment. Sorry, did I hurt you? No, it feels great. Keep doing it, she said. Exhaling through her mouth, she returned to kissing you. But this time, she pried your mouth open with her lips. First cautiously, then boldly, her tongue plunged into your mouth. Your eyes rolled back in pure bliss as you accepted her inside you. It was warm, sensual, and wet, and so hot. Your face was getting so hot. You honestly thought you'd pass out. Wow, said Pomni after eventually pulling back. You could hear her racing heart even now. That's how close she had gotten to you. Who knew that kissing yourself would feel so good? Blushing, you asked, Pomni, are you thinking what I'm thinking? The jester blinked. We make out a little more, sit there for like 20 minutes, and then have an existential crisis over how screwed up the situation is before having a second round? You nodded. Pretty much. Then let's do it! Your room was dark. The only light was coming from the glowing playing card patterns on your fur and the green glowing star stickers that were stuck to your ceiling. You only blinked slowly, as if every successful blink would teleport you to a new place. A strange comfort filling your chest whenever it didn't occur. After all, this place had no rules. Outside of no swearing, that is. And that was as comforting to you as it was terrifying. The bed you were lying in, however, was as comforting as a real one, maybe a tiny bit more. Sometimes it felt as if you were slipping right into it. You stretched out one arm to look at your hand. Still just seams and chitin. The all-familiar clacking and creaking of your protective shell as you fell into the air. You accepted this reality a while ago, and you still weren't used to your new hands. Just 3 digits, uncanny and plastic-like. Sometimes you could still feel your missing ring fingers. As if in trance, you turned your head to the right, the veil of your bed giving the cartoony dark room a comforting silhouette. Kane might be an insane, I have no mouth and I must scream AI thing, but he knew how to make a good bedroom. So good, in fact, it had become the only place you felt sane. Of course, only after removing and or covering every reflective surface. You couldn't stand the visage of what you had turned into. In here, the hours felt like days and the days felt like years, but at least it was quiet, and you could just stare, daydream. Not that you could actually sleep in this world. All human needs just didn't exist here after all. And maybe if you had been described this colorful nightmare in the real world, you may even have seen this as a sort of heaven. Though then again, this nightmare being involuntary seemed to be the point. Your eyes suddenly focused on the shadow of feet from behind your room's door. They stopped right in front of it. It wasn't Kane. He would just plop up in if he so desired. So, it could only be Jax. The rabbit man had flunked a bet he had with Ragatha, and so he had become the permanent messenger to you. He hated it at first, but he sure loved messing with you, so he begrudgingly accepted it. Jax, meanwhile, knew that you had seen him. You always did. You had this fifth sense that no one else had of people being outside your room. He was just standing there in front of the door with a devilish grin. He knew you'd be dying to hear any news from outside, even if you pretended you didn't. Not to mention, you definitely could not fall into another of your daydreams while a person was about to enter, making this a little torturous too. With narrowed eyes, you considered for a moment getting up on your feet, but the thought of hearing your body move was too revolting, and seeing it in the light was even worse. You'll probably break out in tears right then and there. After a few minutes, the rabbit finally placed his paw on the doorknob, entering it with a little pep in his step. "Hey, Tip-Top!" he laughed nonchalantly, turning on the light in your room, making you hiss. He stepped over scattered toys and lettered blocks, stopping right in front of the curtain of your bed. You saw his silhouette and the devilish yellow grin. His hands on his hips, he stood there like an angry parent. "You know, Tip-Top, if you just stay here all day, this will never end, right?" "You could just stop coming, Rabbit," you barked. "You could just stop coming, Rabbit," you barked. Oh, you're hurting my heart." Did he even have one? You clearly just saw him kick down your blocks on purpose. And you saw his hands take hold of the veil's opening. Embarrassed, you crawled under your blanket as he ripped it open. "Ah, come on, Tippy-Toppy. You know that doesn't stop me, right?" He grabbed your blanket and threw it away. Cowering against the wall, you sat there, shivering with closed eyes. "I'm not going to leave." "Please don't look at me." Jax rolled his eyes. Fine, he took the bait. Sitting down on the bed next to you, he spoke. "You do realize your situation isn't as terrible as Zobal's, right? And even she is running around out there. You know, helping." He hated being nice. He really did. But it did get a reaction out of you, as you finally looked at yourself. Here your name was Tip-Top, and your formerly human body had taken on the appearance of a somewhat humanoid moth. Your face was like that of a cartoon character. You had quickly realized that your red clown-shaped nose and painted on playing card symbols were part of your face and body, and unable to be removed or washed away. Zubul once called you a sad clown bug because of them. White, pink, puffy fur covered your shoulders, neck and chest. A pair of wings that didn't work. You had been draped around you like a rope. Your eyes were entirely black. The chitin that made up your body was a pleasant white with orange highlights. You had antennas that were super sensitive, making loud noises at least 3 times louder than they actually were. And you practically always felt a strange desire to eat cloth. Hence why there were little bite marks and small holes all around your bed. The texture was just too good to pass up in your new form. It was quite addicting, actually. Jax rolled his eyes again. Honestly, he felt as if you had won the lottery with your appearance. In weak moments, he'd even consider calling you cute. Well, maybe that's why he still came to this place of dreariness, with your negativity and all.
There's a new character, her name is Pomni. You'll probably like her. Acts just like you did when you first came here.
Curiously, you ask, what does she look like? Jax blinked, scratching his chin.
Like a little jester toy.
You know, a hat that's stuck on her head with little bells, silly shoes, baggy pants. Pomni had sat next to him at the dinner table after a jolly good introductory adventure, so he got quite a good look at her.
She's a riot.
You placed your chin on your pulled-up knees.
You think you wanna see her?
He sounded more encouraging than he intended, so he needed to follow it up with an insult immediately.
Are you chicken?
The way Jax dealt with the entire situation of being stuck in the digital circus was by simply being rude and dismissive. Cruelty made him feel like he had control over the situation, even though he absolutely did not. Sighing, Jax reached into the pocket of his overall and pulled out a sweet bun. Here, I got you some grub. You looked at him for a moment before accepting the treat. Of course, food was not required in the digital world, but it was a good way to skip some time. Got you to do something, and it actually tasted quite good. Even though it looked like low-poly Bethesda game prop food. You could feel your eyes widen in delight as you bit into the sweet bread. Jax, meanwhile, sat there, waiting for you to finish, with a bright grin, before finally saying,
"Oh yeah, before I forget, cough more abstracted."
You're right, I twitched in response to that. What?
He abstracted. Saw it with my own 2 eyes.
Your right hand shook. That commotion outside earlier, that had been him? Without warning, you gripped the bunny's throat, choking him. No! Tell me you're lying! Jax coughed.
Stop that immediately! You gotta abstract too!
Your grip loosened just a little, but yet you still were gripping him tightly.
I don't know what happened, alright? He was just abstracted when I entered his room. You know, to talk about the exit.
You let go of Jax, turning away from him. I like cough more. You whimpered.
Wait, you're serious?
You nodded. His jokes were hilarious.
They were terrible.
No, they were not. You hissed. You guys just didn't understand his humor. You were supposed to laugh at how terrible the things he was saying were. Not actually laugh at the things he was saying. That's literally the definition of gallows humor. You gripped your antennas tightly for comfort. Damn it, we're all going insane. Jax rolled his eyes again and placed a hand on your back. Come on. I too thought Kanger would abstract next, but you haven't abstracted yet, so everything's fine. You look down at your feet, those terrible clawed feet. Part of you wishing you were abstracting right this second. Finally, Jack's hand gripped the fur of your back, tugging at your fluffy body to force you to look at him. It's all gonna be alright. You bit your lower lip. Please, just accept me being nice. It really hurts my brain, you know. Were you trying to be nice? He shrugged. Sure. I'm going to be nice just for this little bit. Sure. But I'm only gonna be nice just for this little bit we're doing. Then I'm gonna be normal again. You suckled on your tongue as you thought about what to say next. Until an awful idea came to you. Without saying anything, you crawled out of your bed, past Jax. But as he tried to stand up, you pushed him back down. You stay here, you ordered. He shrugged. First you took 2 steps and stretched. You haven't left your bed in days, your body creaking and cracking as you did so. It honestly hurt a lot, but that was because you haven't moved in such a long time. And so you stepped over to your door. Gripping a nearby sofa, you pushed it in front of it. Alright, mind telling me what you're doing? Just want to make sure you can't back out. Back out of what? You approached him, unfolding your wings, presenting your body. And that's when it dawned on him. You really think I'm going to make out with an insect? You sat down on his lap, pushing your entire being against him, your fluffy, soft body. Yes, you whispered into his ear. Because you want to be nice, remember? So I don't abstract. Oh boy. He laughed and was about to push you away, but as he did, his hand was swallowed by your fur. And his hand touched something round, that perfectly fit into his palm. With a flushed face, upon realizing what he was touching, he chuckled, as you didn't resist or recoil. Well, if you're this forthcoming. Well, if you're this forthcoming, I oblige. Finally, with his consent, you let yourself fall against him, your faces crashing as you began to devour his lips eagerly and needy. Jax's eyes rolled back as you felt your tongue slip past his lips. Thanks to your body, it was a long tube now that swiftly wrapped around his thick, more normal one. His eyes wide in surprise, not expecting this. It felt incredibly good though, and something he didn't see coming. A honey-like substance secreted from it that was completely blowing his mind. And after the thick golden liquid trickled down his throat, He was done. All resistance dropped. He was enjoying this too much. Your fingers slid down his slender body, scratching, pinching. It was a pleasurable sort of pain he did think possible. With your long tongue still in his mouth, he pulled away just a little and chuckled. Man, you're such a freak, and I like that. You grinned, pulling him back in, huffing a quick, good, before opening up the 2 buttons of his overalls. The digital circus was a colorful, seemingly child-friendly, at least at first glance, world that catered to everyone. Or at least it tried. Not caring about the suffering it inflicted on the poor souls living within it. To them it was a nightmare, lacking things that made a person a person. They were robbed of their human forms, and sometimes given forms the human mind could not handle, leading to extensive mental strain. Robbed of their hunger and thirst, having to eat only for recreation and taste alone. While an upside at first, this lack of hunger led to a loss of time and reality itself. Robbed of their memories, as everything they knew before the digital circus, minus a few key details, such as language and the understanding that this wasn't real life. The only thing that was consistent in the digital circus were adventures. As its ringmaster Kane had so eloquently put it, adventures were daily occurrence unless the current adventure didn't end in a singular day. Sometimes adventures were bending the rules and reality of the circus itself. Once or twice you had awoken in a different bedroom, only to realize that the adventure had not only already begun, but also was taking place in an entirely different digital world. Such as the High Seas Hijinks adventure last month, where everyone, including you, had been put on a cruise liner, without any instructions, via Kane. You had been one of the lucky 2. You and Gangle had just been guests, meaning you were sidelined and could just enjoy the cruise ship, while all the others were part of the crew, having to deal with the ship's NPCs who were incredibly demanding and annoying. Though, come to think of it, the time you spent adventuring was always relatively simple and easy. It was a relatively quiet morning, mostly because yesterday everyone had to survive Kane's amazing digital jungle parkour adventure, which was just a death maze specifically created for each character to easily survive. Though easily surviving doesn't mean that it wasn't exhausting. Jax and Ragatha still had soot spots on their clothing as they slumped into the circus's staging area. Of course, they physically couldn't be tired. Another thing the digital circus robbed from you. They just mentally had it up to here with Kane, and they just wanted some peace and quiet. And while Kane, more often than not, was completely fine with a character skipping out on an adventure, the adventurer often did not. So might as well do them from the start, and have the knowledge, as little as Kane was willing to give, of what was in store today. Also allowed for some pleasant mingling before the theme song, and chaos broke out. So, started Jax as he shrugged. Yesterday everyone seemed pretty done with it all. Since everyone got their own maze, let's share some stories. He pointed with a thumb at his face.
I, for one, got hit in the face by a flamethrower. Multiple times.
That explained the soot.
Spikes, shuddered Kinger. So many spikes! Oh, so many spikes and moving walls, enough to make one go crazy!
The chess piece slapped himself against the bunny man, who sighed in disgust, kicking Kinger off of him.
Alright, enough about that. What about you, Pomni?
It was alright, I guess. Jax furrowed his brows, swiping his hand up and down in front of the jester's face, without any reaction from her.
Okay, then.
I too had flamethrowers, some pitfalls, and I was chased by a minotaur. The thing was big.
Zubel, what about you? Asked Regatha with an exhausted expression.
As the characters continued, however, you started blushing. And finally, it was your turn.
And what about you, Butter?
Crap. At least you had been the last one, so it gave you some time to think, to come up with some stuff.
Well,
you tapped your foot on the ground.
It was a hallway.
Hallway? Regatha and Jack stared at you confused.
Like this super long hallway made from stone and moss and...
Jack's deadpanned. We know how the mazes looked like. We're asking what traps were there for you.
We know what the mazes looked like.
We're asking about the traps.
The truth was that there weren't any.
Well, minus a ankle-deep tar pit that slowed you down for like 2 minutes. You inhaled through your mouth, but that's when Jax put 2 and 2 together.
She didn't have any.
Your guilty expression was all the others needed as confirmation.
What do you mean you didn't have no traps? Shouted Zubel.
As everyone except for Pomni and Gangle ganged up on you for seemingly having gotten away with an easy adventure.
Yeah, come to think of it, started Jax.
On Heizi's Heisjings, you were the only one housed in the VIP section.
And her introductory adventure was just giving her a tour of the place.
Really nice, by the way. I'd love to do that again sometime, shouted Kinger.
Are you guys thinking what I'm thinking? That the next reward should be in insect collection?
No, what? Jax took a step forward and casually slapped his hand on your shoulder, hard enough to create an echoing slap and make you go, ow.
I think butter might be Kane's favorite, and therefore get less difficult parts in our adventures.
Ah, great. And why should we care, Jax? Growled Zubel. The take-apart toy was super jealous of you right now. No, not because you could potentially be Kane's favorite, but because she didn't care the slightest about adventuring and wanted an out. Because she can wiggle Kane around the finger, distract him, influence him.
I'm not a manipulator.
Everyone now chuckled.
What?
So you're telling me, telling us, you're not inflating your body every morning just a tiny, teensy bit? Your face now completely flushed. Inside the digital circus, you have become a clown. Butter the clown. With paper-white skin, red smiling lips, and cotton candy smelling, looking, and tasting hair. Your cheeks were colored with big red circles, giving you a permanent blush, though when you blushed for real, the circles started glowing. Right now, you wore your hair in pigtails using 2 gummy worms. You also had the proper cartoon clown logic to boot, meaning you were super squishy, allowing you to squeeze into tight spaces, and could inflate your various body parts by blowing into a small hole at the tip of your right thumb. What gave away your inflated state was your nose, as it only got big, red, and round when you actively used your special ability. And right now, well, considering it was big, red, and bulbous, Jax was right. Embarrassed, you looked away. So what if I am? Gnashing his teeth, Jax booped your nose, producing a trumpet sound. That's the point. We want you to look your best. We do? Asked Zubel. It's simple, really, Zuby. He shrugged. Butterheel will distract Kane. Keep him busy. Too busy to give us an adventure. Do I get a say in this? You squeaked. No? As if on cue, this was the moment Kane appeared atop the stage with an explosion of bubbles.
Good morning, everyone! We're all excited for a new adventure?
Jax kicked you in the back to push you in front of the others.
Oh, Butter!
Kane pointed his stick at you.
Do you have something to say before we start today's theme song?
You glanced back at the others. Jax was grinning, though the others seemed more anxious. The bunny mouthed the words, "Do it." Kane, I was wondering, You scratched the back of your head. If maybe since I was the first to finish yesterday's adventure, we could have a day. Jax made a psst sound while shaking his head. Thank God you had glanced back at him at the psst, or else you would have not noticed. I mean, maybe you and I could have a day off together. You twiddled your thumbs. Kane was taken aback at first, floating there almost absent-mindedly, before shaking his head to return thought to his brain.
Well, Butter, I'm certainly surprised.
He put a hand under his lower jaw in a pose akin to placing a finger on your chin in thought. Come on, come on, come on. You could hear the excited Zubu whisper behind you.
But what about the others? We'd be robbing them of a truly wonderful adventure.
Oh, no, shouted Jax immediately, followed by Ragatha quickly adding, You two deserve a day off together. I mean, she did such a good job, and you did such a great job designing yesterday's adventure. Actually, I'd like to... Kinger wrapped his hands around Gankel's mouth. Don't. They're doing a fine job. Let's just see where this goes.
Fine,
shouted Kane. He floated to the top of the stage.
Today's adventure is called Coffee Hour. Butter, you and I will have a nice coffee in the VIP lounge.
Wait, we have a VIP lounge? But Jax's question fell on deaf ears as his sentence was halfway finished by the time you and Kane were teleported away. To God knows where. You found yourself sitting on a cushioned wooden chair made out of dark, polished wood. Before you, a round table with a single white and blue cloth, reaching just below the edge. The room's windows portraying a gentle mountainside with just a bit of evening fog. Cozy jazz music played. You didn't see Kane just yet, probably allowing you to take in the scenery. The floor was made of soft beige wood in a zigzag pattern. A bar with a bookshelf and various coffee packages stood at the far end of the dining room you were in. About a dozen of Kane's placeholder NPC mannequins were sitting on other tables, walking around with trays and tablets. The smell of gentle, freshly brewed coffee was in the air. From outside, you heard the faint chirping of a bird. Your heart made a weird jump before instantly being so calm that you felt a little sleepy, but in a good way. You smiled. It was cozy. A waiter NPC stopped next to your table. The thing made a quick bow before placing a menu card before you. For me? It nodded. You quickly realized the quiet ambience of people talking was probably just some sound effect that Kane was playing. So too was the bird. The mannequins themselves didn't talk after all. You shook your head. You came to a conclusion. What did you and the others never do? Accept the adventure and pretend you're part of it. So you just gulped, forcing a smile. It's okay, I'm here on a date. I'll honor when he's here. You scratched the back of your ear. Though I do like some breadsticks while I wait. The mannequin nodded and left. You sighed loudly. This was easier than you had expected, even if you felt a little out of place in your colorful clown getup. As you scratched the back of your neck, you sent out a quiet prayer of relief at putting your hair in pigtails today. It felt just a tiny bit formal, even it was a little childish. The ringing of a bell indicated someone new had arrived. It was Kane. You were about to shout over to him that you were sitting here, but you realized that shouting may not be appropriate in a place like this. So you just waved him over. Kane actually looked decent. He ditched his pink jacket and black pants for a knitted beige trench coat with a white turtleneck beneath, combined with grey pants and black leather shoes. Wow. Well, now I feel a little underdressed. Kane smiled. It's okay, my dear. Wow, he wasn't shouting. Though his normal speaking voice may still be a little too loud. He snapped his fingers, and without as much as a noise, you instantly were wearing a similar outfit to his. A comfy velvet red turtleneck, black dress pants, and comfy black shoes. If it wasn't for your cotton candy hair, white clown face, and gloved fingers, you may have called your new fit classy. You gave a genuine smile, though your brows twitched anxiously. Thanks, Kane. He sat down before you. Ah, I see you've gotten the menu already. With a snap of his fingers, it flew from your place over to him. Have you chosen yet? He asked casually. Actually, no, you stuttered. Oh, I apologize. I can recommend the number 57. He turned the menu around, holding it up for you to see. The picture of the food depicted a relatively large green mint ice cream bowl in a glass, a tall one, with dark chocolate and a lot of cream. You chuckled. Well, I guess I'm going for that then. That and a coffee. The waiter returned with the breadsticks. They came with a small bowl of nougat cream in the middle. You exhaled. This was fancy. Too fancy. Kane ordered himself something called lasagna ice cream. It was a 5-layer treat with a gentle, flattened layer of vanilla ice cream, a layer of strawberry sauce, followed by another layer of flattened ice cream, followed by a thick layer of sweetened cream with just a bit of shredded white chocolate, ending with a layer of white chocolate ice cream. And a latte macchiato with a cookie. Well, 2 cookies.
Oh, I see you ordered breadsticks. How thoughtful of you.
You gulped. Yeah. The 2 of you reached for the sticks at the same time.
Oh, ladies first.
Nervously, your right eye twitched. Yeah, sure. You took one of the dry biscuits and gently dunked it into the cream. After you pulled it to your mouth, Kane helped himself to one. You bit into it. As expected, the nougat tasted like what you expect an eye to think the confection tastes like. So its taste was way, way too muted. To the real thing. But there was an attempt. Again, you forced a smile.
Do you like them?
Asked Kane.
Mm-hmm.
You pressed out after swallowing.
Ah, that's nice to hear. Did you know every meal is just a simple copy-paste of the original?
Yeah, that's how it tasted, you thought. No, actually I didn't. Proudly he slapped his chest.
I make every meal you eat and then simply save it in a folder, and then spawn copies of the food.
I see, that's, very resourceful. Ugh, that explains so much. After another steak was eaten, you asked, And, what is this place? I'm, curious.
Ah, yes, this is the VIP lounge. A little slice of heaven for every character to enjoy.
I haven't seen the entrance to it anywhere. He scratched the back of his head, almost embarrassed.
Well, that's because you need to teleport into it.
You blinked. We can't teleport, Kane.
Oh.
Did you think we could?
I mean, yeah, that explains why adventures take so long. Nobody's fast traveling.
Awkwardly, you leaned a little against the chair. Well, that's why, yeah, no fast traveling. He chuckled darkly.
I thought you just really liked some of my adventures. And then you take as much time as you can in them.
You stopped breathing for a moment. You felt as if you had run face first into a wooden pole. Think, Butter, think. We do like them? You blinked rapidly as thoughts came to you out of the blue, saying the first things that sounded nice to you. We don't need fast travel, really. Jax would kill you if he heard you say that. Kane sighed in relief.
That's nice to hear, Butter.
The conversation was pleasant, though. There was this ever-present threat of the simple fact that you basically were talking to the god of this world that made this also uncomfortable to you. Slowly you exhaled. Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to... You looked around trying to find the right words. Witness the VIP lounge? Kane chuckled.
Thank you, Butter. I really needed to hear that.
Finally, you allowed yourself to relax. Your order soon arrived. The mannequin placed a giant bowl before you. The mannequin placed the tall glass before you. Seeing it now before you, it felt taller than you expected. There was so much ice cream. Mint sauce and chocolate and sweetened cream. It made you a little dizzy just looking at it. Taking a spoon, you cautiously took a piece, placing it in your mouth. Your eyes widened. It actually tasted good. The first genuinely tasty thing you had placed in your mouth since you arrived here. Your eyes twitched. The amount of control you needed to not immediately shove your entire head in there was making your heart race. Meanwhile, Kane gently smiled at you, your reaction making him as happy as he can be.
I'm glad you like it.
You blinked, looking at him.
I mean it.
Your face flushed.
Damn it. You're catching fields now.
Once you reached the second half of your ice cream, you spoke up again. I'm sorry there isn't much to talk about. I mean, you know, what's going on in the circus all the time, so no really any news to tell you. And we don't do much outside of adventures. Understanding the quiet anxiety you were feeling, Kane placed his elbow on the table while resting his chin in the palm of his hand.
It's okay, Butter. Sometimes just quietly enjoying a meal together is all the conversation one needs.
You gulped, blushing hard. God take me now, you thought.
What was that?
Did you just say that out loud?
Nothing, just, thank you, for this.
Eventually, your ice creams were eaten. The windows outside the little cafe were now depicting the night sky and the full moon. You opened your mouth to sarcastically ask if it really was a full moon in the real world, or if he just created it to be romantic. But you quickly decided against it. Instead, you said,
So, have you any plans for something else, after this?
Oh God, it took you a second to realize that you just showed romantic interest in him. Kane thought for a moment, before getting off his chair.
Well, would you like to accompany me? Would you like to accompany me outside?
He stretched out his hand, and you took it. At a gentle pace, you followed him to a window which, in front of your eyes, morphed into a wide wooden door, which led onto a large, wide balcony above the forest. Pleasant, warm wind was tickling over your face as you stopped at the railing next to him. This was the most detailed you had the digital circus ever seen. From this distance, it almost looked like real life. Well, maybe a little too perfect to be real life. As you turned to look at Kane, you noticed that your clothes had changed. Again. Kane was now dressed in a black suit, while you were wearing a blue dress with white frills that reached down just past your ankles. You stammered. Kane smiled, taking one of your hands.
Thank you for the beautiful evening, my dear.
You stared into his floating eyes, smiling. It was only a bit forced this time, as, frankly, you were still unbelievably intimidated, while also super being into it.
Well?
You blinked, as all alarm bells in your head went off. And yet, gently, your face came closer. You kissed one of his big lower jaw teeth. It felt weird, of course. He didn't have lips, though his gums acted like them. The more you thought about it, the worse the image became in your head. Cain didn't dare to blink, too afraid his teeth may bite down on you, though really, he didn't want to. He wanted to burn this moment into his mind forever. With a quiet smack, your lips released from his mouth. Your heart was racing as you returned his gaze. Almost possessively, he placed both hands on your shoulders.
"Thank you for this, butter,"
he said. His fingers were vibrating a little bit. Cain was obviously excited, and you realized this may be a crucial moment. "It doesn't have to end yet," you whispered loud enough for him to hear. He looked to the side, obviously trying to think of what to say next. Being quick on your feet, you shoved your thumb in your mouth and blew, increasing the volume of your breasts and hips just a tiny bit. As he turned to face you again, you just barely managed to hide your arm behind your back. Seductively, you looked down, and as he followed your gaze, he couldn't help but focus on your cleavage for just a second too long. The grip on your shoulders intensified.
Cain,
you hushed, now wrapping your arms around his hips.
I love you.
Cain. He exhaled. He loved it when you said his name.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
He let go of your shoulders with his right hand. Snapping his fingers, he turned the coffee house into the balcony entrance to a beautiful mansion. Specifically, the balcony that led into a lavishly decorated bedroom. Your smile softened.
Do you want to get frisky?
Frisky. That's how he managed to get around the circus's censorship whenever he made something lewd.
Well, yes, actually.
With an almost smug expression, he reached for the top buttons of his white shirt, unbuttoning them, while resisting the urge to look away from his eyes. Softly, your hand slid under Cain's shirt, feeling his hot skin as yours own. Feeling his hot, soft skin as your oversized glove-like fingers rubbed over his chest. Wow. His chest was toned, muscular even, and had not a single hair on it.
I want you, Cain.